I fell in love with my stepbrother. He told me I was disgusting, that being gay made him sick, and that he wished I was dead. At a dinner party, a group of men forced me to drink, and he just watched before leaving with the girl he was in love with. They tortured me for 2 months. I was covered in humiliating marks. When I called him, begging for help, all he said was, "Nice acting." So I decided to let him go, to leave his world for good. But then he went crazy. A sanitation worker on his early morning shift was the one who found me. I'd been thrown naked into a patch of bushes. After the ambulance rushed me to the hospital, a nurse looked at my face and said in surprise, "Isn't this Iris Johnston, the actor who went missing a while back?" Hearing someone say my name felt strange and distant. For the last 2 months, those men had only called me dog. I'd been tortured so badly I'd almost forgotten I even had a name. When the nurses started to help me out of my clothes and into a hospital gown, I instinctively dropped to my knees on the bed and lowered myself into a submissive position. As everyone around me stared in shock, I couldn't stop the tears of shame from falling. It turns out 2 months is all it takes to completely shatter a person's spirit. When the doctor saw the bite marks and countless other injuries covering my body, the surprise and embarrassment in his eyes turned into knives, stabbing into my heart one by one. After my wounds were finally treated, my brother, Alex, arrived with the police. My 2-month disappearance didn't seem to have affected his life in the slightest. He walked slowly toward me, looked at the marks on my neck, and sneered, "So filthy." I looked down at my own wretched, muddy body and nodded in agreement. My brother was right. After all, in the last 2 months, so many people had, and I had been conditioned. If I wasn't obedient and submissive, the punishment would be even worse. He must have come straight from the office. His suit was perfectly pressed, and he radiated an air of effortless privilege. And me? There wasn't a single clean spot on my body. Standing next to him, I was afraid I would contaminate the very air he breathed. "When are you being discharged?" I remembered what the doctor had said and answered quickly, "Tomorrow." "Good. My mom is really worried about you. Remember to call and let her know you're okay," he said, his tone full of blame. "I'm sorry. I will." Alex frowned, looking down at me. I pulled the hospital gown tighter, trying to hide the marks on my body. His gaze didn't linger. "Well, I guess you learned your lesson. Don't just trust anyone from now on." "Don't just trust anyone?" But the person who orchestrated this whole kidnapping was Helen, the girl he was in love with. I didn't dare say that, of course. After all, he was the one who chose to abandon me for her. I watched his back as he walked away, as impeccably noble as ever. This was the man I had loved for 10 years. But now I was just afraid. Alex is my stepbrother. We grew up together, but after my parents died in an accident, the Sterling family adopted me. Even before we lived together, I loved being around him. As I got older, living under the same roof, I realized what I felt was love. So I worked up the courage to confess to him. I never expected him to call me pathetic, to say the thought of it made him want to vomit. Looking back on it now, I'm surprised I no longer feel the sting of his words. The abuse and humiliation I endured over the past 2 months were so much worse. Back then, I believed that if I just kept trying, my sincerity would eventually win him over. When I heard he was stuck in a downpour and couldn't get home, I ran out into the storm with an umbrella for him. I was completely soaked when I heard a car horn behind me. Helen, his one true love, was in the passenger seat. She rolled the window down just a crack. I could hear him laughing, calling me disgusting. My brother just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, saying nothing. She leaned toward Alex coquettishly. I made a bet with my friends that he'd actually show up. I won. "You're not mad, are you?" My brother wasn't mad at all. He even laughed and asked what was the bet. Helen smiled brightly. "Dinner. Should we get Chinese or barbecue?" After they chattered back and forth and decided on a place to eat, my brother finally looked at me. His attitude did a complete 180. "You're filthy," he said coldly. "Don't get in the car." I just stood there and watched the taillights disappear. It took a long time for my legs, frozen from standing in the wind and rain, to feel anything again. For the man I'd loved for a decade, I always held on to a tiny sliver of hope. Even if he couldn't love me back, maybe he could at least stop hating me. But in the end, I never got what I wanted. Instead, I got hell. 2 months ago, it was Helen who contacted me. She said she'd met an older producer, a big shot in Hollywood who was looking for a lead actor for his next project. She said she wanted to keep the opportunity in our circle, so she thought of me. At that point, my relationship with my brother had already hit rock bottom. I thought, with a sense of self-loathing, that maybe if I did what his girlfriend wanted, he might finally be a little pleased with me. So I went with Helen to the meeting. The contract was signed quickly. A few of the investors smiled and said they'd arranged a dinner to celebrate, inviting both me and Helen. As the drinks were flowing, I started to realize something was wrong with the alcohol, but by then it was too late. My mind went foggy. Through the haze, I saw Alex burst in, his face etched with anxiety. When the men saw an outsider barge in, they just laughed. The contract's signed. If you don't leave someone behind, who's going to pay the penalty for breaking it? Without a second of hesitation, Alex pointed at me. Him. He wasn't telling me I had to pay. He was choosing to leave me behind.
Alex, no.
My heart sank. I instinctively lunged forward to stop him, wanting him to take me with him. But after gently helping Helen up, he kicked me away, hard. Don't touch me with your filthy gay hands. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My body went rigid, and I couldn't move. I could only watch helplessly as he walked away. That was the beginning of my nightmare. These men weren't producers at all. They were just a bunch of extras Helen had hired from God knows where. I knew because as their hands roamed freely over my body, one of them said, "This guy Helen brought is top shelf." From that day on, I no longer had a name. I was tied up in a dark, damp warehouse. If I didn't obey, I was beaten. They would pour salt water on my open wounds. Even to get a bite of food, I had to kneel on the ground and beg for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, it became a reflex. When the whip came down, I would accept their commands without a moment's hesitation. The day after I got out of the hospital, I went home. My adoptive parents looked at me with conflicted expressions. I knew that while they were worried, they were also afraid I might actually succeed in winning Alex over. So they had chosen to stay silent about my disappearance. In the end, it was my fans who noticed I hadn't been on screen for a while and started a campaign online. When the kidnappers saw things blowing up, they panicked and dumped me on the side of the road. Seeing the way my parents were looking at me, I fled to my room. On my nightstand was a photo of me and Alex. I clutched it and broke down in tears. Because I was adopted, I learned to read people's expressions from a young age. So before I decided to confess my feelings, I had sensed that Alex treated me differently. For a while, DIY plaster figurines were trending online. I saw a post and shared a few pictures of some creative ones on my social feed. The next day, a Saturday, Alex knocked on my door with a smile. Why be jealous of other people? Come on, I'll take you to paint one. He had taken art classes as a kid and had a real talent for it. He painted quickly and beautifully. A lot of people watching that day wanted him to paint one for them. He refused them all, using me as an excuse. He'd said, "Sorry, this one gets jealous." After we finished, Alex even took a few rare photos and posted them on his social feed with the caption, "Iris's personal artist." Then he gave me the figurine and made me promise to take good care of it. As soon as he posted it, a lot of people who didn't know our situation commented with their congratulations. He never replied to those comments, just let them assume what they would. Alex had no shortage of admirers at work. When some of them saw his post, they'd try to coax him into taking them to paint figurines too. But no matter how much they pleaded or threatened, he ignored them all. He even came to me to brag about it. "See? For you, I'm even turning down other women. Wilsonis will just have to settle for each other." He said that all the time. It was practically his catchphrase. If a girl confessed her feelings for me, he would scroll through her social media and critique her with brutal honesty. Thinking about it now, Alex just didn't want to deal with those unwanted advances. I was just a convenient shield. I had mistaken all those signals, all that fake favoritism. It made me, a person who always knew his place, start to dream. At that thought, I swept the plaster figurine off my desk, shattering it to pieces. The noise brought Alex to my door. He pushed it open and frowned when he saw the mess on the floor. He gritted his teeth. "Iris, are you asking for it?" I looked down at the broken pieces and, for some reason, I started to laugh. Before he could say another word, the sound of breaking glass filled the room again. Crash. This time, it was the mug Alex had given me. Seeing the stunned look on his face, I felt like I'd finally found an outlet. In the closet, I found the t-shirts Alex used to call our matching set and cut them to shreds. On my desk, I found the sketches he'd drawn for me and tore them to pieces. Alex's face grew darker and darker. He lunged forward and grabbed my wrist as I reached for the desk again. Lying there was the birthday card he'd given me right before my confession. It was signed, "To Iris, from the brother who will always be by your side." His angry voice roared in my ear. "Stop this, Iris. Stop acting crazy. As long as you get rid of those disgusting thoughts, we can go back to how we were before." Before? Could we really go back? I turned to look him straight in the eye. "But I can't change the fact that I'm gay." Hearing that, Alex's brows furrowed deeply. In a flash, he whipped the belt from his waist, ready to hit me. The thought of the violence that might follow made my legs go weak. I collapsed to my knees, bracing myself for what was to come. This is how I had survived the past 2 months. I was used to it. My posture exposed the deep, fading marks all over my body. Alex's pupils contracted violently. "Where did those scars come from?" he yelled. My thighs and other places were covered in them. Countless bite marks, bruises, and burns. The proof of my 2-month nightmare. My body started shaking again. They said they were going to cure me of being gay, Alex. Hearing this, Alex quickly wrapped me in a blanket. His voice was filled with disbelief. "That's impossible. Helen guessed you ran off with some other sponsor." As the words left his mouth, he seemed to realize something was wrong. The room fell silent. I forced a well-practiced smile. "If you don't need me now, you can come find me later, whenever you want." When he heard what I said, Alex fled in a panic. I didn't sleep well that night. There was someone else in the house. Back when I was locked in the warehouse, no one wanted to sleep in that filthy place at night. So being alone gave me a strange sense of security. The next morning, the breakfast table was silent with me there. Alex didn't come out to eat. As I was heading back to my room, I ran into him in the hallway, his eyes bloodshot. The flutter in my heart was gone. I realized it was time for me to disappear. 2. The roles I had played before were minor, but I had managed to save up some money. While everyone else was out at work, I wasted no time and started moving out. After I left, no one from that house tried to find me. Not even a single text message. I knew my leaving was a relief for them, too. Because of the nightmarish 2 months I'd been through, I became a recluse, never leaving my new apartment. Occasionally, I would post updates online for the fans who were worried about me. Unexpectedly, during this time, a new director reached out to me. At first, I was extremely hesitant, but my bank account told me this wasn't the time to be stubborn. So I emailed him back and asked if we could handle everything remotely until I'd had a chance to read the script. To my surprise, he agreed to my unreasonable request. Not having to attend parties and suck up to people gave me an immense sense of security. I started to focus on studying the digital script. Whenever I had questions about lines or actions, I would message the director, Daniel, constantly. And every time, he would reply almost instantly. Daniel had been preparing this art house film for 5 years. One day, I couldn't help but ask him, "Director, why did you choose me?" This time, he didn't reply right away. After a long pause, a message came through. "Because of your eyes. They make me feel like you have a story to tell." Daniel had seen me before, but I had no memory of him. I opened a search engine and looked up his name. The moment I saw his picture online, I remembered. When I was found unconscious on the side of the road, I had been vaguely aware of my surroundings. But I was in too much pain to move. When the sanitation worker helped me up, someone else lent a hand. I had seen his face. It was Daniel. Suddenly, a flood of chaotic, disgusting memories rushed back. I slammed my laptop shut, my body trembling uncontrollably. My lack of a reply must have tipped Daniel off that something was wrong. He sent several more messages, all voice notes. What's past is past. I believe you're a diamond in the rough. You've got this. Listening to his calm, relaxed voice, I felt a wave of comfort wash over me. I even had a wild thought. A person like him would never have abandoned anyone at that fake dinner party. Just as I was finally getting my life back in order, ready to start fresh, fate played a cruel joke on me. Because I had been found on the side of the road, the police had gotten involved. They found a trail leading to the kidnappers. Cornered and with nowhere to run, they decided to burn everything to the ground. During my 2 dark months, the kidnappers had taken countless videos and photos. They compiled all of it and posted it online. The entire country saw me in my most debased, pathetic state. My name was trending at the top of every social media platform. For days, the internet was filled with discussions about me. Even though the videos were taken down, it didn't stop them from being shared on cloud drives and private servers. Some fans sympathized with me and sent messages of support. Others called me disgusting and perverted, saying I must have enjoyed being treated that way. Otherwise, why would I have willingly let myself be used like a bitch? And it was true. In the videos, I looked willing. Because any resistance was met with a beating, and it hurt so much. Watching the constant flood of messages and friend requests, my world turned gray. As I stood by the window in a daze, I thought to myself, I really do deserve to die. But the apartment I was renting was only on a low floor. In the end, the doctors saved me again. Iris, Iris, wake up. In my haze, I heard someone calling my name. I forced my eyes open and saw my brother's frantic face. I'm dreaming again. Why would he care about me? As the words left my lips, someone grabbed my hand. You're not dreaming. It's me, your brother. Wait here. I'll go get the doctor. When the warmth in my hand disappeared, I stared up at the white ceiling and realized it really was him. When Alex returned with the doctor, I got a good look at his face. He was gaunt, his chin covered in stubble. He looked nothing like the polished man I once knew. I opened my mouth to speak, but I didn't know what to say to him. Finally, I sighed. I don't love you anymore, Alex. I'm too scared to. I thought he would turn and leave or maybe look relieved. Instead, he leaned down and hugged me, his voice tight with pain. I'm so sorry. I just found out. I was wrong, Iris. I was so wrong. Listening to his endless apologies, a bitter feeling welled up inside me. This apology had come far, far too late. He started spending every day with me at the hospital. The entrance was swarmed with reporters. Every time Alex came into my room, he looked like he'd been through a battle. He would coax me to take my medicine and feed me my meals. Iris, be good. Open your mouth. Hearing him call me that made my stomach turn. It was what he used to call me before I confessed my feelings. Now it just sounded like a cruel joke. Alex would even squeeze onto the hospital bed with me, telling me about what was happening outside. I listened to his ramblings like a zombie, until a single phrase cut through the fog. Nice acting. He'd said that right after I was taken to the warehouse. I was fighting back against those monsters with everything I had. They thought I was no fun, so they decided to call Alex and demand money to let me go. When they put the phone to my ear, I was silent. The image of him walking away from me at that dinner party was burned into my mind. When I didn't say anything, the kidnappers ripped off my clothes and grabbed me between my legs. What are you, shy? The pain and the insults made me scream for help. He would save me, right? But all that came from the other end of the line was a cold, indifferent voice saying, nice acting. Then he hung up. I don't want to remember what happened next, because hearing those words hurt more than any of their punches or kicks. My will to fight just evaporated. I went limp like a broken doll and let them do whatever they wanted. The person who once promised he would always protect me had broken his promise. When we were little, before Alex and I became stepbrothers, we were really close. I was always pale and small. Until I was 4, my mom would carry me around, and people often thought I was a girl. Playing house was a popular game back then. Because I was small and had delicate features, I never got to be the cop or the scientist. At most, I'd get to be the doll or the bride. Alex thought we were being childish, but he would still watch us play from the side. He told me once, "You look so easy to bully. I have to protect you." One time, I was playing the bride again. It was my turn to say, "I do." Suddenly, Alex ran over, grabbed my hand, and pulled me away, leaving the little boy who was playing my husband in tears. As we ran off, Alex couldn't resist a parting shot. "Big boys don't cry." Pathetic. The little boy just cried even harder. Once we were away from the drama, I angrily asked him why he had to ruin the game. He retorted, "You're supposed to marry someone you love." "Do you love him?" I was too young to understand, so I just shook my head instinctively. Alex crossed his arms, looking smug. "Exactly. And even when you do like someone, they have to get my approval first. You can't just marry someone so carelessly." It's ironic. In the end, he was the one who hurt me the most. Watching Alex bustle around the hospital room, handling my discharge papers. Couldn't help but sneer, "Nice acting." Alex's hands froze as he was packing my things. He definitely remembered. I was throwing his own words back at him. When he turned to look at me, he had already composed himself, but his eyes were red. He looked like he wanted to explain. But in the end, all he said was a choked, "I'll get revenge for you." I didn't care about any of that. After leaving the hospital, I told Daniel the news. My breakdown had delayed his entire production schedule. I thought he would be pushing me to get back to work, but instead, I found him waiting for me downstairs at my apartment. And with him were the paparazzi, with their long lens cameras and flashing lights. In an instant, the world was a blinding chaos of camera flashes. Alex threw his jacket over me and started swinging his fists wildly. Reporters shouted their questions. "Are you his partner? Are you and Iris in a relationship?" Alex wasn't in the entertainment industry, so he had never dealt with anything like this. He blurted out, "I'm his brother." Just as he said it, a calming scent washed over me. From under the jacket, I saw a hand with long, elegant fingers take mine. A murmur went through the crowd. Then the questions shifted. "Director Wilson, we hear Iris Johnston is the star of your next film. Are you here to terminate his contract after this scandal? Do you and Iris have some kind of secret deal? How did he really get this role?" Once the reporters heard Alex was my brother, they lost interest in him. It made sense. Who would imagine I'd be twisted enough to have feelings for my own stepbrother? Daniel was now the center of their attention, but he was a seasoned pro. With just a few words, he calmed the situation. He pulled me into an embrace and said in a steady voice, "I chose Iris simply because he is an exceptionally talented actor. I did not know him before this. Besides, he is the victim here. I ask you all to show some decency. I'm here today, so please don't make your headlines too sensational. Otherwise, my old man will have my head." His words were part joke, part warning. The sound of camera shutters immediately died down. Daniel had that kind of power. He was the heir to the Wilson family fortune. As long as he was willing to give up his film career, he could be one of the most powerful men in the city. The reporters didn't want to mess with him. With his help, the three of us made it upstairs smoothly. Daniel had brought groceries. He said he had just intended to visit me, not expecting to be ambushed by reporters. The struggle downstairs had left me exhausted, so I just nodded to show I understood. He smiled, ignored Alex, and went into the kitchen. But seeing Daniel's easy confidence, Alex started to lose it. He pinned me against the wall, hissing, "What is he to you?" I just shook my head, not understanding what he meant. The indifference in my eyes must have stung him. His grip loosened, and he pulled me into a hug, murmuring, "Then why was he so close to you downstairs? You're not allowed to love anyone else. I'll get revenge for you, Iris. Trust me." Not allowed to love anyone else? Did he expect me to go on loving him? My throat suddenly felt tight, and a suffocating feeling washed over me. I used all my strength to push Alex away, clutching at my chest as a sharp pain bloomed. This was all so ridiculous. I wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, but the pain in my chest left me breathless. I stumbled toward the nightstand where my medication was. After moving out of Alex's house, I had seen a therapist who warned me to avoid extreme emotional swings. I twisted open the bottle and swallowed the pills dry, not even bothering to find water. After a few deep, ragged breaths, I managed to push myself up. I glanced at the full-length mirror in the room. My reflection was pale, my hair a mess, and my forehead was covered in a cold sweat. I looked so pathetic it was humiliating. I looked at the anxious Alex beside me and couldn't stop myself from asking, "Do you want me to die a second time?" He gave a bitter laugh. How could I ever let that happen? At this point, I was done playing games. I grabbed whatever was nearby and threw it at him. "If you never loved me, why did you lead me on?" I screamed. "Aren't you satisfied with the revenge you've gotten? Why are you still torturing me? Get out. Go live happily ever after with Helen, the monster who set this all up. Just get out of my life." My outburst brought Daniel out of the kitchen. When he opened the door, Alex was struggling to pin my flailing arms. He yanked Alex off me. "Didn't you hear him? He told you to get out." Alex stumbled back, his face ashen. "What did you say? Who was it that hurt you?" Seeing the look of utter disbelief on his face, I let out a sharp, cold laugh. "The one who took me to meet those men was Helen. Your precious Helen." As soon as the words were out, Alex frantically tried to deny it. "That's impossible. She was the one who helped me hire a private investigator." The results showed it was one of my business rivals. Leaning on Daniel for support, I stood up. "Your business rivals? Ha! Your rivals must really think highly of me. They knew you were disgusted with me after my confession, but they were still crazy enough to kidnap me instead of you. Believe whatever you want. Just leave." My outburst had drained all my energy. Alex walked out in a daze, leaving me and Daniel alone in the room. I couldn't read the complicated emotion in Daniel's eyes. I just gave a self-deprecating smile. "You think it's disgusting too, don't you? That I was in love with my own stepbrother." Daniel looked down, not meeting my eyes. "No," he said quietly. "You said it yourself. Was in love. It's in the past." He gently rubbed my back, poured me a glass of water, and then slipped back into the kitchen without another word. I was so grateful to him. He gave me space when I was at my most vulnerable, and he reached out a hand when my career was in ruins. Daniel was quick, or maybe I was so lost in my own emotions that I'd lost track of time. When I went to the dining room, the table was set with 3 dishes and a soup, all looking and smelling delicious. I still had no appetite, but I didn't want to be rude, so I sat down obediently. He served me rice and put food on my plate. For a while, neither of us spoke. After a long silence, Daniel finally broke the tension. He pointed to the boiled shrimp on the table. "I saw on your old social media posts that you love shrimp, but it can cause inflammation, so just have a little for now." I was taken aback but nodded obediently. At my reaction, Daniel let out a long sigh. "We can start shooting my film whenever you've recovered," he said. "Don't feel pressured." I wanted to object, but he must have sensed what I was about to say. He continued, "I've seen your movies. You had a bit part in a horror film, Famine, right?" I nodded. "You were great," he said. "I was on set visiting the lead and I saw you. You had less than 10 lines in the script, right? But you were in a corner, really trying to get into character. The way you were so focused, it gave me a sense of hope. Getting into a role is what you're good at. Think about that person you used to be, the one who was so full of life. From now on, just put yourself back in that mindset. Okay. Forget him. Okay." When he said that last sentence, my hand, holding my chopsticks, froze. I stared at the peeled shrimp in front of me and suddenly remembered something. It happened after I confessed to Alex. I had an audition for a major supporting role, but a call from Alex summoned me to a private room at a restaurant, and I missed the opportunity. I burst into the room, out of breath. He had his arm around Helen, looking very intimate. Helen shot me a triumphant smile from his arms. "I'm just so insecure. The thought of someone who's in love with you being around you all day, even if he's a man, it just makes me unhappy." Hearing this, Alex frowned, as if he'd heard something vile. He glanced at me. "Since you're here, make yourself useful before you go." So the reason I had to miss my big chance was so he could publicly prove how little I meant to him. A chill spread from my bones as everyone in the room stared. I walked over and started peeling shrimp. A waiter came in and saw what I was doing, rushing over to stop me. The stranger said, "Sir, I can help with that." But Alex waved him away, refusing his kind offer and leaving me in that humiliating position. The sharp point of a shrimp head pricked my finger, and the salt from the shells seeped into the cut. I winced but kept peeling until the whole plate was done. After I wiped my hands on a napkin, Helen gasped, "Oh, you're hurt." She glanced at Alex, gauging his reaction. He just took a sip of his wine and said with a frown, "Then don't eat it. Who knows what kind of diseases gays have?" The room erupted in laughter, a chorus of disgust. I just turned and walked out. When I heard Daniel tell me to forget him, my mind flashed with a million tiny memories. And with them, a tidal wave of humiliation. I knew I could never forget. But when I looked up, I met Daniel's anxious, caring gaze. The words of protest died in my throat. I smiled and nodded. In the days that followed, Daniel would come and spend time with me whenever he could. But recently, he'd been busy with work and hadn't come by as often. I don't know if he changed me, but I started to open the curtains, letting the sunlight fall on my skin. Today, I even dared to go downstairs to the supermarket to stock up, though I was fully armed with a mask and a hat. But I didn't expect to see an unwelcome guest downstairs. Alex. He looked dazed and lost. The ground at his feet was littered with cigarette butts. I had no idea how long he'd been standing there. When Alex finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "Are you dating him?" Took me a second to realize who he was talking about. He continued, "Why does he come to see you so often? The day before yesterday, he spent the night. What were you two doing in there?" As he spoke, his eyes burned with fury. I was terrified. My legs instinctively went weak, and my whole body started to tremble. Seeing my state, he moved closer to steady me, but I immediately took a step back, putting distance between us. "Iris, don't be afraid of me," Alex said, his voice choking, when he saw me pull away. Looking at him, I found the situation almost laughable. I had already decided to leave him alone. Why did he have to keep interfering in my life? The hostility in my eyes was so obvious that he didn't dare to step closer. Alex stomped out his cigarette. "I'll kill the people who hurt you," he said. Then he turned and walked away. In the end, I never even left the building. I took the elevator back upstairs, my mind a complete mess. I didn't pay his words any mind. After all, my goal was to forget he ever existed. With Daniel's help, I was gradually able to handle being in crowded places again. But when I was in front of a camera, I still couldn't control my emotions. So the film production was postponed again and again. The next time I heard about Alex, it wasn't in person. It was online. Like me, his name was at the top of every trending list. Only I was the victim and he was the murder suspect. Helen was dead, stabbed multiple times. The photos of the other victims were censored, but the death toll was 8. The exact same number of people from my 2-month nightmare. My first reaction was a sense of relief. Good. Those people deserved to go to hell. Their violent deaths led people to dig into the reasons why they were killed. My story was dredged up again, but this time Daniel was there. He had his people shut down the public discourse so the media couldn't make a spectacle of me. On another afternoon, I was drinking coffee and sunbathing on my balcony. My phone buzzed with an unexpected text message. 123 Main Street. "Iris, I want to see you. They're all dead. Please, can you forgive me?" There was no doubt who the message was from. Before I could even type a reply, Daniel, who had noticed my screen, took the phone out of my hand. "If you've chosen to forget, then don't get involved again." I smiled and held out my hand for the phone. He couldn't argue and gave it back. I did end up replying to that message. I replied with one word. "Okay." Then, I immediately dialed 9. "Hello, I'd like to report a suspect, Alex Sterling. He's currently at 123 Main Street." I personally sent him to prison, which meant I was finally saying goodbye to my dark past. As for his future, I didn't care. All I knew was that I was free.